Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Organic Podcast. I'm your host, Reagan. Today's episode is going to be all about relationships in adulthood. I do not mean just romantic. Honestly, it's mostly just friendships and platonic relationships, but sure, we'll sprinkle in some romantic relationships in here because for any relationship in your life, there's going to be overlap in the values and the main core factors that make up a good relationship. Whether or not you are dating someone or friends with them, there's overlap. So we're going to get into everything today. You might look to me and say, Regan, what do you know about relationships? You are 23 years of age. You are only a year and a half out of postgrad. What do you know about the real world? And to that I say a fucking lot, because I may be young in the eyes of many, but I have a lot of experience with mature communication, a lot of knowledge about being emotionally regulated, what to tolerate, and just I have seen and I know from other people and myself how much your relationships and how you value them impact your life. Everyone says you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time around, and I think especially in this post-grad despair era, as I talk about, a lot of people can get sucked up into just hanging out with the same people. And I'm not talking about lifelong friends who you love very much and whatever. I'm talking about kind of one-off people who you're kind of still friends with because you're in the same friend group and you know them and you feel comfortable, but you're not, it's just, you know that something is off. And it does not come from this place of feeling better than other people. It doesn't come from the place of I'm more enlightened than other people. It comes from a place of knowing that you get to a point in life where sometimes your values, what you're prioritizing, where you're spending your time, it's just going to naturally branch apart from the people in your life. And that doesn't mean anything bad about you or them. It means nothing. It just means that you are going on your own individual journey. So I have a lot to speak on with this. I think it could help a lot of people from the perspective of just actually, freshening up your life, being more intentional, being the active creator of your life rather than the passive observer of it as it just flies by. And a big part of this is being intentional about your relationships, how you show up in them, your priorities with them, your standards, your boundaries, communication, your values, what you're willing to tolerate, all that stuff. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Welcome to the Organic Podcast. I'm your host, Reagan, mechanical engineer, lifelong athlete, and recovered overachiever, here to empower you to pursue your highest potential and live freely as your happiest, most organic self. Every week, we'll dive into topics ranging from personal growth, mindset hacks, psychology, and a blend of science and spirituality to give you all the tools you need to stop living on autopilot and start creating a life of freedom, meaning, and fulfillment as your most organic self. If you're ready to become the best version of yourself, then let's plant those seeds and grow. Not gonna lie, you guys, I'm low-key hating my intro. I loved it. It's been 16 episodes, and now I'm this bitch needs to go. I need to redo this. Anyways, relationships. Oh my goodness. This is a topic that I feel, what a shock, I feel passionate about, because having clear communication is something that applies to every area of life, but especially in relationships. From listening to so many podcasts, from my own experience, from mentors, from whatever, I have a much more grounded, clear perspective of what it actually takes to have a healthy relationship. And with that, I see so many examples just in and around my life, not me specifically, not necessarily people super close to me, but just I notice a lot more things in other people's relationships. Even you see it in stupid shows online, whatever. I notice a lot where I'm or I even see it in older generations. No offense to older generations. I'm talking my parents' age, and they're not old. They're not boomer age. They're whatever. But I see it in so many places of life, especially for people who are older, who did not have the benefit of having the World Wide Web and podcasts and so many people to teach them about all this stuff at this age. Our age group, if you are in the same kind of post-grad era, we are so lucky to have so many resources online, to have so many different voices available to us to kind of teach us these things, to lead us in the right direction, to help us establish healthier relationships with ourselves, with the world, with how we see it, and with others. which then obviously contributes to a higher quality of life. So relationships and communication, like, that's something that a lot of people in generations above us, especially like further removed, didn't have the privilege of learning about. And if you don't learn about it, as we know, nothing's going to change. You can't change something you don't know about. And relationships are like such a fundamental core pillar of our lives. Like, what are we without relationships? Where would we be without our families, our friends, our loved ones, like the people in our life we are closest to, who we have relationships with? What would we be without them? We'd be miserable little individuals, just isolated, living like cavemen and cavewomen, like absolutely hating our lives, probably. I mean, even the most introverted of people wouldn't, I really truly do not believe that anyone would actually be happy to be fully alone by themselves, completely isolated, like no friends, no family, no loved ones, whatever, and like wouldn't desire that, because we as biological beings are communal. We rely on each other to survive. That's what our brain. I cannot speak lately. I have a, like, something's wrong with me. If you are an astrology person, you'd say Mercury is in retrograde. But for my engineers here, my fellow engineers, mind you, I won't bore you with that. But anyways, what was I even saying? It is our biological brain's programming to be in community settings. We base our survival on whether or not we're accepted by a community, whether or not we have people around us that we can lean on. Like, that is directly tied into a programming of the human mind that is never going to change. Because if it hasn't changed by now, it's not changing anytime soon, because it's an evolutionary trait for survival. And I don't know if you guys realize this, but the scale of evolution does not, in fact, take 20 years. It takes a very long time for us to adapt. So we've got a lot going on in the needing relationship side of things from a survival perspective, and also from an enrichment of life. And if you're listening to this podcast, the goal for me and who this is targeted towards is anyone who's wanting to live a better version of life for themselves, where they feel so aligned, so fulfilled, so free to be their most organic self, and like fully authentically themselves, and know that they're living a life that's like fully in line with the person that they want to be, like living up to their potential. So with that, someone who is living this like aligned lifestyle, this like beautiful life, which doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be a mansion, it doesn't have to be whatever, more internal happiness. Does internal happiness come from arguing all the time, from not speaking up for your needs, from being frustrated, from not being able to effectively communicate, from just passively accepting your life as it is and not really consciously thinking about, what do I actually want in life? Who are the kinds of people I want to be around? Where do I want to spend my time, my energy, whatever? Which one do we think is going to lead us down a better path towards further, more enhanced alignment and happiness? It's going to be the one where we're consciously thinking about our relationships, putting care into them, putting thought into how we communicate, our values, all the things. Like, it is so important to living a high quality of life. I think I've convinced you of that by now. If I haven't, then I haven't done my job. So go re-listen. I can't help you anymore. I'm just kidding. But I really do think there are three main areas, maybe only two, but there are main areas to focus on in relationships to foster healthy ones. That was a horrible way of saying there are three main things that you need to focus on to foster healthy relationships, and I want to get into each of them individually. The three areas that are coming up right now are communication, clarity, and respect. So we're going to go into each of these, and hopefully I won't go on too much of a tangent and take literally 17 hours, because there's so much I could go into with this. So let's just start with communication. It would be a cardinal sin if I talked about relationships and the first thing that I talked about was not communication. Because what are our relationships based on? Communication. Like, the values that we share, the ways that we communicate, the time that we spend with other people. And as I think we can imagine, if our relationships and spending time with others looked like just staring at each other in silence, that doesn't really create connection. We create connection through communicating, through spending quality time together, and all the things. So communication is necessary, obviously, for a relationship, but from the perspective of maintaining a healthy relationship, by communication, I mean being able to speak up when something is wrong. This is a trait that, believe it or not, is very rare for a lot of people. I think so many of us, and I have been like this before, like the past version of me, I was so good at this, just not actually speaking up when something was bothering me, not speaking up for myself, not speaking up for my boundaries, not speaking up when something was irking me or whatever. I'm going to tell you something right now. You cannot have a healthy relationship if you don't know how to speak up for yourself. Because when something bothers you and you let it sit, you don't say anything. You just let it be, or you're passive aggressive, or you don't outright tell the person that you're upset with why you're upset with them, and you expect them to just know what's wrong. That is a marvelous, fantastic way to, number one, build a heap of resentment towards the other person and yourself, and therefore, number two, destroy the relationship by doing that. What kills relationships is not always these big one-off things. It is an accumulation of small moments of resentment. And I see this a lot in older generations where you can tell when resentment has built up. You can tell when, especially between a man and a woman, because we communicate so differently, we have completely different brains, like very different on a biological scale, not just physically, like neurochemistry in the brain, very different, and how we communicate, how we express ourselves, extremely different. So you can tell, and I see this in like older couples. And by the way, major note in this episode, like I am not speaking to anyone specifically in my life. I'm not talking about any of my other friendships or like family or relationships. Like there is no specific person in my close personal life who I will be referencing in this. I'm simply talking about patterns I have noticed across like a wide scale of witnessing humanity on like social media and also in my personal life, but like not anyone close to me. So by the off chance that someone in my close circle is listening to this, like, it ain't about you, bestie, it ain't about you. So anyways, you will see this a lot in older couples where it's usually the woman. She is fucking pissed off at the husband because he didn't do this and he didn't do the dishes and he didn't know how to do this and I had to clean up this and blah, 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 blah. And these small moments of resentment accumulate over a lifetime and lead to this massive pile of just resentment that becomes a giant block in the relationship. But guess what? The resentment built because you didn't speak up for what you wanted. If something is bothering you with a friend or a partner or a family member, it is your responsibility to tell them. People cannot read minds. We cannot read each other's minds, believe it or not. And because of that, especially girls, like women, trust me, I know how it is to get frustrated with things or like want something done, and you want to go into that passive aggressive. You want to go into everyone should, like, you should just know that something's wrong. You should just know that whatever. Like, I've been like that in past relationships way back. And you are never going to get what you want if you expect your man to magically figure out what is wrong, like, on a consistent basis just by being passive aggressive. Oh my God, that is like the worst thing you could do for any relationship, is be passive aggressive. I can go on a little side tangent because this is very specific to men and women and the difference between us. And more to that is the fact that, like, men on a biological perspective, if we think about it from like the caveman days, men were the hunters. They did not need someone else to protect them because they were strong enough to fight for themselves. Women on a biological scare. I literally cannot talk. Women on a biological scale, our job was not to do the hunting. Our job was not to be the fighters. Like, we are not built to be able to naturally defend ourselves as easily as a man is. So from that perspective, it plays out in relationships in the sense of men don't need communities to survive. They don't need to be accepted to survive. Like, their inherent survival instincts, the biological brain inside of them, they don't need to have like relationships and other people and be accepted by the tribe in order for them to be able to live. Women do. Like, we evolved to be able, or like to have to need the acceptance and approval of other people to survive, to stay in the tribe. Because odds were good if we were out hunting on our own, because we got kicked out from the tribe back in like 200 AD or whatever. That was, no, 200, do I want BC? I sound like a fucking idiot right now. Anyways, if this was like 100,000 years ago and a woman went out hunting on her own, odds were good she probably wasn't strong enough to be able to fight off like a fucking predator. Men are. Therefore, women have evolved this lovely, lovely ability that we have to be catty and bitchy towards each other, because that is how we send a message that you are not, like, you need to be accepted by the group. Women respond really well to shame, because in group settings with women, this is why women are so bitchy sometimes, and we talk shit about each other behind each other's backs and the gossiping, whatever. It comes from all of this sense of like shaming within the group, but not wanting to directly confront each other. Because back in the day, in these caveman eras, we relied on these communications and like these subtle pings and whatever from the group to know that we were accepted or to know when we were doing something wrong. So if we're feeling shame, we are much more inspired to change, to be accepted, to not want to have this feeling of like, oh my God, no one likes me, I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe. We respond very differently to shame than men do. When men are shamed into changing, they just shut down. Like, that's not how they respond well to being inspired to change anything. Like, women, when you shame them, when you're passive aggressive towards them, when you're whatever, like, we get the message. We know, because we're communicating on a completely different scale with a completely different set of like biological neurochemistry in our brains that signal these like little pings of safety to us. I hope that makes sense, but that is why when women are like passive aggressive towards their man, it doesn't really get you the outcome that you want. And there is something to be said for, you know, like, guys, everyone should know at this point, if your woman says she's fine, she's not fine. But men don't communicate like this. They don't. Like, that, they're not attuned to that. We just think so completely differently, and I wanted to go on this tangent to describe, like, the legitimate scientific, logical background to why there's such a difference in how our brains communicate. And this is also knowledge that would be like, wow, how helpful would this be to know in your relationships that, like, there is a legitimate scientific factor you have to acknowledge just being two completely different genders in a relationship, in like a monogamous relationship with each other. You have to acknowledge the fact that like your brains work differently, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. You just need to understand it. But this is knowledge that I didn't learn in high school. I don't know about you guys. I was never told this outside of freaking Monica Yates, who I've learned so much from, especially in the realm of like communication and men and women and everything. But it's so important. It's why men take longer to respond to things. Like, women are more community centered and like nurturing and respond better to like the little shame, and this is why we get all catty and gossipy. But men are very much just like straight to the point, because they don't need to have all of their guy friends like love and accept them in order for them to feel safe. They're safe more, they feel more safe just being on their own. So all that tangent to say, it just, such useful information would be great to know. And I feel like everyone in a relationship, if you are like in a relationship like man, woman, then like this should be fundamental stuff that we are just taught. But then again, when are we ever going to be taught it? We're learning things that we probably don't actually need to learn in the time when everyone's being taught the same things. And we miss out on all of this information that can apply to our lives and make it literally 100 times easier in our relationships. So that tangent to the side, communicating your needs is so essential. And if you don't speak up for yourself, whether it's something small that bothers you, whether it's something big, like I said, it's just going to bundle up into a giant ball of resentment. You cannot just do that. If something bothers you, if the smallest little thing, but something is annoying you, something frustrates you, whatever, you need to communicate that. You need to speak up. You cannot let it just be this thing sitting here, just like building up between you guys, because that is how you completely destroy your relationship. And like I said, this applies to all relationships, whether it's romantic, whether it's platonic with just your normal friends, or whether it's your family. You are doing the relationship and the person that you're in a relationship with so much of a favor by actually speaking up for yourself, because you are looking out for the relationship. Even if it's an uncomfortable conversation, even if it doesn't feel good to say, hey, this thing here really bothered me, like, can we talk about it? That's not always fun. These hard conversations are not ones that you always want to have and initiate. It's why most people avoid them, because no one actually wants to like face the discomfort of the feelings. But what you're actually doing is giving your relationship a disease that you're not going to acknowledge until however many years, until it all blows up because you built up so much resentment. And then the way that it comes out is not going to be productive. It's going to be far more damaging to the relationship. Odds are good. And you're both just going to be more miserable for it. Like, if you really care about someone, you really love someone, you really appreciate them, you show the highest level of respect to them and yourself and the relationship by speaking up for your needs. So keeping quiet, to keep the peace, to whatever, like, just be a people pleaser, never, ever, ever good for anyone in their relationship, and especially not you. So I hope this is like just a little ping, a little reminder to say, like, you need to speak up for your needs. That is something you have to take self-responsibility for. And I'm not saying that as someone who's self-righteous and just and has never, like, kept something to myself. I absolutely have. And this is more to say. I've lived both sides of it. I've been there where something bothers you, where I'm not speaking up about it. And guess what? The result of that, the resentment that builds up, 100 times worse than relationships and how it looks more for me now, where I actually do speak up when something bothers me. And believe it or not, it makes my relationships 100 times better. And I feel so much lighter, and it feels like I actually am putting more conscious effort into having these, like, healthy relationships and maintaining, like, good established relationships in my life that are nourishing and fulfilling and, like, truly feel so grounded in love and respect. That so much of that comes from communication, and that is what I want for everyone as well, to feel like they are open, they can be themselves, they can speak up for what they need, and they can, like, have this clear establishment between the people you have relationships with so that you both can be happy and can understand each other better, and therefore the relationship can thrive. And this flows into my second point of relationships, which is clarity. And to be able to communicate your needs, you need to have clarity on what your needs actually are. This gets into boundaries and priorities, and not only clarity on communication, but also clarity on, like, who is the version of yourself that you want to show up as in the world, and what kind of relationships do you want to have from that perspective. None of this is in a self-righteous way. None of this is in a, I'm better than everyone else, I'm more enlightened, I'm more awakened, I can't be friends with my best friend from whatever grade because they're not getting into XYZ thing that I'm prioritizing, or blah, 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 blah. That is absolutely not what I mean. What I mean is, where are you prioritizing or giving energy to relationships that you know, part of you knows, like, they don't serve you, they drain your energy, they are, I don't know, maybe it's a friend who is participating in a certain thing or, like, focusing their energy on something that you just really don't vibe with anymore. You really don't want to be talking shit about people all the time. You don't want to be just, like, having no ambition or thoughts of the future or XYZ thing. Whatever. We don't judge. We only show love. We show respect. And you absolutely can have love and respect for people that you are friends with or have relationships with. And you can choose to go in separate directions. It doesn't have to be this whole big, like, oh my God, you're not aligned to my values anymore, therefore this is not going to work out because you're not matching my boundaries. Like, no one likes that kind of person. I hope that no one is like that, where they are so in this realm of, like, I don't even know, mindset work, personal development, healthy, like, conscious communication and relationships. Like, I never want anyone to get so far down this, like, perception of a rabbit hole of all this stuff and think that they are above everyone else who isn't in this world of, like, enlightenment and knowledge and healthy communication and whatever. Like, that's not the vibe. The vibe we're going for is choosing, like, actively creating the conditions in which you are regularly living, which relationships and who you spend your time with is a big part of that, from a place of self-love and self-respect, so that you can be living the life that you want to be living instead of just passively accepting relationships or friendships or whatever it may be that part of you knows they don't actually serve you. Like, they're not actually that good for you. Can you get clarity on what relationships, what people actually make you feel good? What relationships nourish you? Who are the people that after you hang out with them, you're just like, wow, I feel so much more energized. I vibe with this person so much. I love them so much. Like, it is never an energy drain. And on the other side, who are the people that you hang out with just because it's kind of the same group settings and it's just comfortable or it's normal or you're just like, whatever, who drain your energy, who just like completely deplete you of all life force that exists in any part of your body, and people who just make you feel like, ugh, like, why are you spending time with those people? Why are you spending time with those people? If there are people who do things, like I said before, like talking shit all the time or whatever it may be, and you're moving into a season of life where you're like, I don't really want to do that anymore. Like, I'm just not, it's not for me. It's not for me. Then here's your permission slip to lovingly, non-judgmentally, like, set a clear boundary and get clear with yourself about your priorities and say, like, okay, this is not what I want to be giving my energy to anymore. This is not where I want to be spending my time. This is not where I want to be putting any of my focus. And you don't have to say it. If you do say it, which you should, if you intend on keeping the relationships, or even if you like want to break off a little bit, you don't say it in this way of like, you guys just talk shit all the time and I hate it and I'm not like that anymore, so I'm leaving. Like, you can communicate from a place of softness and love and true compassion and understanding, and say something along the lines of like, hey guys, like, I really appreciate our friendship. I appreciate us hanging out. Like, I love you guys so much. I love all our memories together and everything. Like, I'm just entering like a kind of different season of life or whatever it may be. And I just feel myself kind of shifting away from wanting to do things like, I don't know, like talking negatively about other people or XYZ, whatever thing. Like, so if you notice me kind of like distancing myself a little bit, I'm not trying to make this a whole big thing. It doesn't have to be personal. It's just like something that I've noticed that I just don't really want to give my time to anymore, and I just don't really want to do that. So, like, I don't know. Maybe not exactly that way, but like you can send a message that says like, look, appreciate you guys. I'm not judging you. I'm not whatever. Like, this just isn't really in line with what I really want to be spending my time on. And like, if I'm drifting away a little bit, it's not because I'm trying, like, you know what I mean? Like, just peacefully let go of certain relationships. Sometimes you don't even need to say anything. All you need to do is kind of just let them naturally fall away, especially if you're like entering a new season of ambition or really wanting to try something new or spending your time elsewhere or going for a big move. Like, these are great opportunities for you to allow things to kind of naturally fall in place, where like some people will come along, some people will fall off. And it again does not mean that you are better than them. It does not mean that they are worse than you. It just means you are two human beings, or multiple human beings, whatever, going off on different paths of life. Some people are meant to be in your life for a certain amount of time and then drift away. Some people are in your life, then they move out of your life, and then come back into your life, whatever. But back to the clarity piece, if you don't have clarity on what your values are in your relationships and like your values are in life and how your relationships play into that, then it's easy to fall into the trap of getting so depleted from your relationships that might not serve you, that you're just keeping out of just like comfort, or again, just being passive. It's so easy to get depleted by them, and that is just such a waste. That's such a waste, especially if you want to be creating a better life for yourself. Never, again, not on the scale of like, I'm going to manifest $1 million tomorrow and I have to be fucking like Jordan Belfort. I just said that so weird. But you get what I'm saying. You don't have to be saying I'm going to go live in a mansion in New York. Do you hear what? I cannot talk today. I cannot speak. Anyways, you don't have to be saying, I have to go live in a mansion in New York and I'm done with all you guys to be someone who's ambitious. You could just be transitioning your season of life, learning more about yourself, learning more about your place in the world and like your purpose and what you want to be doing, and like just changing. There are so many different ways that you can expand your life and pursue more ambitions without it being this whole big like flashy thing. But if you're not clear on your values and your priorities and what your boundaries are in terms of what you are willing to tolerate and how it all ties into the direction that you are trying to take your life and the things you're trying to prioritize, it's a lot harder to be able to preserve your energy and give it to the people, relationships, friendships who are actually worth your time, who are going to give you a return on the investment of your time and your attention and your love and everything. it's a lot harder to find those fulfilling relationships if you're still wasting a bunch of your energy giving it to people who don't actually fulfill you, you know? So this is a big part of just being clear. Where are you being passive? Where are you just allowing your friendships to be a reflection of your standards of what you're just accepting right now, just because it's just not really doing anything to change it, you don't even realize it? Like, where can we close those gaps of leaking our energy all over the place just by not having clarity on what we actually want in our relationships and in our life? That is massive. It will give you a massive return on the investment of time that it takes for you to reflect on these things, in the sense of like your energy, your vitality, how you show up every day, how you feel about yourself. Like, the flow-on effect is so massive. And clarity in any area of life is super important. Like, honestly, taking action on things without clarity is a really easy way to just feel like you are floating in space with no clear direction. Like, clarity gives you the direction, and a direction gives you somewhere that you can actually put action into, so that you then start feeling more confident in your direction, and then you come across more of the breadcrumbs and the nudges and the ways to go and like the right path and everything like that along the way. But it all starts with clarity. So apply this to your relationships. DM me what you guys think. Like, if you honestly want like advice or my perspective or anything, shoot me a DM. Seriously, like, I will happily chat about it if you don't mind sharing as much or as little as you want. Instagram is Organic Reagan. It's linked below. So reach out to me. Genuinely, let's have a chat and let me know what you guys think. The last but not least, number 3, big key factor of healthy relationships is respect. And all of these kind of tie in, like communication, clarity, respect. Like, we can all see how they are interwoven, because in order to have clarity on your values, you need to communicate them with the people that you love. And in order to be able to communicate with the people that you love, you need to have respect for them. So it's all a lovely interconnected triangle of joy in the relationship sense. But respect is super important for yourself and for others. And as I said, this really connects into like the communication key, because if you're not communicating your needs, your boundaries, your expectations when things are frustrating you, you are not respecting yourself, and you're not respecting the other person, you're not respecting the relationship. But when it comes to respect on a separate scale from communication, clarity, all that, if you do not have mutual respect for one another, that is, odds are good, that's not a good relationship to be in. If someone does not respect your ways, your opinions, your way of doing things, or even just the way that you show up in friendships and what works for you, that is not where, it's not worth your time. It's not worth your time. I personally am someone who, I could not have a friendship that is like super high maintenance, in the sense of like, you will never catch me like regularly every single day like needing to respond to a friend as if I'm in like a freaking romantic relationship with them. Like, I don't even text my boyfriend that much. Like, if I had a friend who had the value of like communication all the time, seeing each other like X amount of times a month, like all that stuff was very important to them, like that would not be a well-aligned relationship for me, because that is just not how I operate. I am the kind of friend who I love my friends so deeply. I have a much like closer circle, and it works really well for me to be able to like text my friends, you know, decently regularly, depending on the friend, you know, voice memos, whatever it may be. But like, especially my best friend I've had since we were 5 years old, her and I see each other maybe like once every 2 or 3 months, maybe sometimes longer in between. And mind you, we are in the same like area code, like we are not far from each other, but we don't text all the time, whatever. But when we see each other, it's like there is no gap, there is no expectation of like, you need to text me all the time, you need to do this, you need to whatever, blah 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 blah. Like, none of that is there. It's very much just like, we see each other, it's like nothing ever happened. We could text each other anytime we need each other. We don't need to be on a constant hotline 24/7 to show and like tell each other like how much we love and appreciate each other as friends. That's just how I work. So when you're thinking about friendships, do your friends have respect for the way that you show up as a friend? And are you clear on your values? Do you have the same kind of perspective on what a good friend is, or like how you feel cared for as a friend? And obviously this is like a different scale, like hopefully a heightened scale on a relationship sense, because like respect for each other in a relationship as two people choosing to be in a loving relationship is like so extremely fundamental. And also in friendships, as I say, it applies to everything. Like relationships are such an umbrella topic, but especially with friendships, like, do your friends respect you for the way that you show up, for your values? Like, do they respect you as you come? Do they love you unconditionally? Or do they have all of these metrics for you? Do they judge you? Do they say things about you? Do they talk about you behind your back? Do they gossip about you? Do they act like a friend to your face and then say some things that make you question it? Do they do things that friends would never ever do and then act like nothing happened? If that's the case, if this is making you think of anyone in particular in your life, maybe this is your sign to start reflecting on that a little bit more and realize, wow, I am not respected in this relationship. I'm being walked all over. They don't listen to my boundaries. They don't do this thing. They don't actually fulfill my needs in a friendship. So why are you spending time with them? Why do you care? Why are you giving your energy to them? Like, just cut the line, bro. Cut the fucking line. Look up on YouTube right now a cord cutting meditation and cut that bitch, because all it's going to do is make your life worse to be in this like idea of some committed friendship or whatever with people who don't respect you. And it is the biggest act of self-love that you could possibly do to show respect for yourself by removing yourself from situations, from friendships, especially from romantic relationships where you are not respected. Because in any relationship, you should not have to change yourself fundamentally in order to be accepted by other people. For people who feel like they have to change themselves, they have to water themselves down. And I'm not talking about like, having emotional regulation, like being able to have constructive conversations or like deal with kind of those tough conversations and criticism and whatever from a loving standpoint. Like, I'm not talking about any of that, because that is healthy. It is healthy to be able to like regulate your emotions and not just like spaz out on other people and be like, this is just me being myself, like being my fullest self. You can't handle me. Not what I mean. I mean, you should not have to change who you are as a person to fit into the mold of a relationship. If you are doing that for anyone in your life, they are not meant to be in your life. That's not an aligned relationship. All of us as adults should only be putting our time, our energy, our sanity into relationships, into friendships that give us a feeling of unconditional love, that don't have all of these strings attached for like reasons why you are not good enough of a friend, or like these expectations to live up to that don't actually align with anything that you value, or they don't see you for who you are and love you exactly as you come. Those people are not meant for you. And nothing will ever be worth sacrificing your own self-respect to attain this idea of being accepted by people that you don't actually want in your life. You do not actually want them in your life. Like, I'm telling you right now, you don't want them in your life if that's how they're going to make you feel. And if you feel like you're someone who is often in the same kind of relationships or in hectic relationships or just like constantly attracting this chaos, that is a good sign that that is what you are calibrated to as what is like normal. Like maybe what you grew up with, maybe what you've become accustomed to as like your comfort zone is the gossiping, is the drama, is like there being a fucking explosion every 2 weeks. Like, this comes from something internal. And those relationships, I don't care how much you say you are obsessed with the person, odds are good that your relationship just needs a bit more emotional regulation, and you need to be able to like look inwards at patterns in your life and like what things your nervous system is calibrated to as just what to expect as a normal experience, and where you can get away from that. You need to zoom out from your perspective and do an introspective inward deep dive for why you want these kind of relationships on a subconscious level, because we don't attract things to us that we subconsciously don't recognize. So if you're in these hectic situations a lot and relationships, etc., is because your subconscious recognizes it as something that's normal. So we like it because it's safe, even though it's not good for us, and we want more of it. That's where you get into any repeating loop or pattern in your life, and that is a whole other episode. So anyways, just wanted to add that in there as a perspective thing. But there you have it, guys. Those are your big 3: communication, clarity, and respect. I feel like if you embody these 3 attributes in your relationships, your life is going to be infinitely better, infinitely happier, and you are going to be living much more freely as your most organic self, able to know that you are embodying your best version of your most authentic self in your relationships, showing up with self-respect, and actually reaping the reward of having nourishing relationships in your life and not having this giant sinkhole of a leaking energy to people who are living a life that you don't want and you are done giving energy to. So, with that, I hope this episode gave you guys some reflection points. This is definitely something I could have used way back in the day. So all of the everything I have learned about relationships, about emotional regulation, about communication, and all of that, this episode is pretty much a whole summary of it wrapped up in a nice little bow for you. So my only wish is that it helps at least one person improve their relationship, communication, friendships, etc. And if you got something out of this episode, you want to chat about your relationships, your communication, anything we discussed in this episode, as I said in the middle of it, shoot me a DM. My Instagram is linked below. I truly love communicating and chatting with anyone in this community with me. Like, I love you guys so much. I want to have these conversations and I want to share my perspective because all I want to do is help y'all. I just want to help y'all live happier, healthier lives as your most organic self. So, with that said, go be your most organic selves and I will see you in the next one.